hold up for the slow folks to come up.
Indeed, I will. Where's our fiddler guy?
I'm over here.
There you are. All right.
Sorry, I was hiding. Waiting for you to give the intro.
Indeed. Well, I'm waiting for everyone to get within. I have a very strong voice, so with or without the microphone, I know you could hear me. My story is of a young woman named Maria Rupp. And Maria was born in 1832 in the Hesse region of Germany. And when she came to the United States, her name was Mary Schleider. She changed it to Maria Rupp, my guess would be probably to fit in more. And Maria ran the Sacramento Beer Saloon on J Street between 3rd and 4th Street. And I thought I would start out this little story by singing a couple of songs that would probably be songs that were sung in her saloon at the time that she came to Sacramento by a man named Stephen Foster. And I'm certain everyone has probably heard of Stephen Foster, if not his name, most definitely his songs, because they are Americana at its best. First one I thought we'd start with is called Camptown Races. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sing the version that everyone must know. And then there is another version that was written for people who came to California. And I thought I'd sing that one as well so that you can get a little bit of knowledge of different lyrics that were added to tunes later on. Who knows what copyright laws were back then? The Camptown ladies sing this song, doo-dah, doo-dah. The Camptown racetrack's 5 miles long, oh, doo-dah, day. Going to run all night, gonna run all day. I bet my money on a bobtail nag, somebody bet on the gray. The long-tailed filly and the big black horse, doo-dah, doo-dah. They fly the track and they both cut across, oh, doo-dah day. Gonna run all night, gonna run all day. I bet my dollar on a bobtail nag, somebody bet on the bay. Okay, then the other song would be Oh Susanna. And Oh Susanna, there are 2 different lyrics as well. And the original one goes like this.
There we go.
I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. I'm going to Louisiana, my true love for to see. It rained all night the day I left, the weather it was dry. The sun so hot I froze to death, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. Well, I come from Alabama with a backbone on my knee. And I came from Salem City with my washstand on my knee. I'm going to California, the gold dust for to see. It rained all night the day I left, the weather it was dry. The sun so hot I froze to death, Susanna, don't you cry. Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. I'm going to California with a washstand on my knee. Well, that was the nice part of the story. Now comes to the very sad part. Maria ran her saloon, and she was, at the time she came to Sacramento, 24 years old, and she would only live to be 25. And in the meantime, when she did come to Sacramento, she met a man named Francois, who was a physician. And she was very much in love with Francois, and he was with her. And they were engaged to be married. Everyone in town seemed to know this, except for one particular man. And his name was Peter Metz. And Peter Metz was not right in the head. And Peter Metz was in love with Maria Rupp. And he knew that she ran a saloon. She had a successful business. And he wanted to be part of that very much. And he would come in and she'd be at the piano playing and singing a song, and Peter would come in and she'd say, "Oh, there's Peter, he's a little weird, but that's okay. He's coming in and spending money and drinking his drinks, and everyone is feeling great. That's okay." Well, Peter told one of his acquaintances at the time that he was in love with Maria, and he was going to marry her. But this acquaintance knew that Maria was engaged to Francois, and he said, "Well, that's never going to happen because Maria is already engaged to another man." And Peter Metz said, "If I can't have her, she'll die before anyone else can marry her." And one night she was at her piano in her saloon, playing a tune, and probably like every other night he came in, she would sit there and say, "Ah, here comes Peter," and he sat down next to her on the piano stool. And unbeknownst to her, he had a knife. And he reached around her in what she thought was a loving hug and shoved the knife right up into her ribs, right underneath her right breast. She didn't die right away, but she did die that evening. And there was an arrest made. And Peter Metz had no defense because there were millions of witnesses, it seemed like anyway, that saw what he did. And so after he was tried and found guilty, he was taken to San Quentin prison. And he was kind of strange and kind of weird, so they thought, you know what, maybe this gentleman ought to be in a place for insane people, like an asylum. And so they sent him to Stockton, and evidently under not very good guard because Peter made an escape. And got all the way to Siskiyou County before they caught him and brought him back. And he said, "At least I'm getting a free ride back to town." That's the only thing that mattered to him. Now, the end of the story is not what you might think it is, even though Maria was dead. This is true. But Francois is now left without a woman. And Francois made it in his will that when he was to die, his body was to get donated to science. But his heart was to be buried right next to Maria Rupp. And so that is where his heart lies, next to the woman who was his life and his love. And that is the story of Maria Rupp.
Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. In a cavern, in a tavern, excavating for a mine, lived a miner, 49er, and his daughter Clementine. Like she was and like a feather, and her shoes were number 9. She wore boxes without socks, the topses, sandals were for Clementine. Drove she ducklings to the water every morning 9:30. Hit her foot against a splinter, fell into the foaming brine. Ruby lips against the water, blowing bubbles soft and fine. But alas, I was no swimmer, so I lost my Clementine. Hey there, sailor, on your whaler, with your harpoon sharp and fine. If she goes there, yell, there she blows there, it might be my Clementine. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine. You are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine.